Alright, well, hello to anybody who is watching this. Whoever's made the terrible decision to waste your time listening to this. So I did go see Spider-Verse, and that movie was fucking great. Yeah, I mean, visuals were amazing. Story was great. Really, I just think that movie was just like how you can make a really good comic adaptation. I thought it was awesome. It was actually better than I thought it was going to be, and I had high expectations. But anyways, that's not why I'm recording this. Because after I saw Spider-Verse, I went to see the Alita movie for free, of course. So I've basically just made this to give my thoughts on that. What can I say about this movie? Well, I feel like it's wrong to say that Alita Battle Angel is a bad movie, but it's certainly not a good movie. Personally, I think that currently this movie is very overhyped. Like Rotten Tomatoes right now is saying the movie's like 60% fresh, and that's pretty much what I agree with. It's about a 6 out of 10. So there are two approaches I can take to analyzing the successes and failures of this movie, and those are going to be really first to assess like its authenticity to the source material, and then the second one is just, well, does this movie work as its own thing? So regarding the authenticity, I would say that this movie is quite accurate. I'd say it's like 90% accurate, but it's accurate to the OAVs, not accurate to the manga. It's only superficially similar to the manga, which is a shame because the manga is a much better story than the OAVs are. If you don't know, the OAVs are the anime, the animation that came out. So I'm pretty convinced at this point that James Cameron, he claims that he's like a big fan of Battle Angel Alita, and yeah, I think that he's read the Battle Angel Alita manga, but I think he also just only has a surface level understanding of the characters and the themes in that story. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Robert Rodriguez, he strikes me as someone who like hasn't even read the manga. At least he seems like a guy who's like probably not even interested in anime and manga. I doubt I'd be very shocked if he's read this. He's read Battle Angel Alita, and I really don't think there's like no way he's read this thing in full. So the end product of the movie is that it's a movie that bears some shallow resemblance to the manga, but it's totally lacking in substance, and I just don't agree that it's captured the real soul of the manga. So yeah, for me, the most glaring flaw of this movie is just the general aesthetic direction, because I think that the aesthetics are just so off from what the manga is supposed to be. Like one of the main iconic, if you can say, things about the manga is that there's this really sharp contrast between Scrap Iron City and Zalem, where Zalem is like this pristine floating city. It's like beautifully bourgeois, pretty much. The residents are like the vast majority of the population is like lily white, blonde, blue-eyed people. And then on the other hand, you have Scrap Iron City, and Scrap Iron City is basically a shithole. It's rife with poverty, filth, and crime, and it's also like a much more diverse setting too. But if you compare that to the movie, well, you never actually see Zala, and Iron City in the movie is actually quite beautiful. It's not a rough area at all. I would say it's actually a really nice area. So it just looks like people there are getting on fine. So this makes a problem in the story because in the manga, like the character Yugo, he's Alita's or Gali's love interest, but there's more to his character than just being a love interest. It's also that he's like a representative of somebody living in Scrap Iron City, where you can really understand why he so desperately wants to get into Zalem. Well, yeah, because he's pretty much like this street urchin kid who's like, he's living in squalor. He's living alongside hobos and murderers, and he's like stealing people's body parts to make a living, right? Like you can see that from the way he's drawn. He's wearing like dirty clothes all the time. He looks like he's lived a pretty hard life, right? If you compare that to Hugo in the movie, Hugo looks like he's living very comfortably in Iron City. He doesn't. There's no struggle with this character. He's just this pretty white boy, um, and it's totally not believable that he's like this thug or something to him. No, it's just ridiculous. So you can't really sympathize with why does Hugo want to get into Zolom so badly. Like that isn't really there in the movie. So that's a problem because that really strips away a lot of depth to that character, and what you're left with is just this really kind of shallow, boring love story that's going on with him and Alita. That's somebody to say. I thought that the romance in this movie was probably its weakest point. It just didn't give a damn about Hugo at all. Yeah, the romance between Alita and Hugo in this movie, I just found that shit so corny. And at times it's like they're like trying too hard to be edgy or something, and it really didn't go for that. Speaking of romance, though, I did want to mention something that I think the movie does well, though, or something I feel sort of conflicted over. One thing I did like about the movie was that it completely does away with the romantic aspect between Ito and Gali, which is present in the manga. I think that that's actually one of the biggest problems that I have with the manga is that it has this pedophilic, if we're being real, it's like a pedophilic undertones between the father figure and Alita, where but Ito, like, who is pretty much Alita's adopted father, he falls in love with her, and it just like, I don't know, reading that now, I feel like that's actually pretty creepy, and I'm really glad that the movie just didn't have that in there at all. Instead, the relationship between Ito and Alita is strictly father-daughter, and actually what Alita is she's like a surrogate for Ito's daughter who died in the past, and so that actually kind of made sense to me, and also you have Shiren too, who is Ito's ex, and I was actually surprised because I felt like that all worked pretty well. Because when I first heard that Shiren was gonna be in this movie, I thought like, oh, what the hell? Like, how the hell are they gonna fit her into this movie? They've got all these characters from like the OAVs and the manga and all this shit. How is this possibly gonna work? But actually, that worked pretty good. I think that they did a decent job of integrating her into the plot. But at the same time, I feel conflicted because like I also feel like Shiren's kind of just tacked onto the plot, and she's definitely not like, how do I say it? They didn't do very much with her character, so I feel like it's kind of clumsy how she's written into the story. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that was pretty much tangential. So getting back to the point of authenticity. Authenticity. This movie is a good adaptation of the OVAVs. I think it's actually probably the best example of a Hollywood adaptation of an anime. However, it's definitely falls short of being an adaptation of the manga. And now also I wanted to talk about some of the specific changes that the movie makes from the manga, because there are like definitely some key ones there. First of all, Alita's backstory is very different from Gali's. I mean, again, it's like there's this superficial resemblance, but like a lot of the bigger details are missing there. I don't really want to spoil it. It's just kind of a tangent. Whatever. That's that. The other thing, but I think like the bigger problem, there's like these two really big changes that they made, which kind of fucks up their opportunity to do a sequel. So I kind of wanted to talk about that. The first one is Destiny Nova. So if you've read the manga, he's like pretty much the main villain, if there is such a thing, in Battle Angel Alita. So Destiny Nova is very different in the movie from what he is in the manga. I kind of don't want to spoil it, but what I do want to say is Destiny Nova is played by Edward Norton in this movie, and I've got to say, I just feel like it's so disappointing because there is one really obvious good choice for Destiny Nova, and that is Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe would made a perfect Destiny Nova, not only because he fucking looks exactly like Destiny Nova, he has the right like manic type of personality. Destiny Nova is an extremely manic character. He's like totally fucking off the rails compared to the other crazy things that happen in the story. He adds this crazy energy to Battle Angel Alita. I'm not really sure I like the character, but at least I understand his essence, and I just don't think I know that Edward Norton is a very talented character, but he doesn't have the spirit behind that character, and that's kind of shitty because Destiny Nova is this huge character. He's really important to the story. He's like one of the main characters. So that kind of screws up the potential for sequels. The other main change, okay, so this is like a really massive spoiler. So I guess, fuck it, just like stop listening to this if you give a damn. Yeah, so really massive spoilers here. I'm gonna spoil not just the movie, but I'm gonna spoil the manga as well. So the manga has in the later towards the end of the manga, there's this like classic plot twist that it has involving the people in Solemn, and that plot twist is that nobody in Solemn has a brain. What happens when you go to Solemn is they take out your brain and they replace it with a computer chip. So nobody in there, it's like even though they're like the upper class people, they're super rich and they look down upon the people of Scrap Iron City. Well, actually, they're all brainless. It's really interesting. It's a really ironic twist. And it's pretty fucking awesome. Like when you first read that, I think it's a really great plot. So this is one of the things that stands out about the manga. The problem is they fucked that up in the movie. So in the movie universe, spoilers, well, Shiren dies and they show her brain. This is a problem because this means that they're saying that people from Zalem in the movie universe have brains. So they fucked up the no brain plot twist, which sucks because that's like one of the cooler parts of the manga. I don't know. I don't think you can really recover from that. They'd have to do some creative writing to explain why Shiren has a brain when nobody in Zalem is supposed to have a brain. Anyway, that's like a nitpicking thing. I'm sorry. Like I've read the manga, so I know a lot about this franchise, though I wouldn't call myself a super fan or anything. Anyways,